The cartoon?
My name is Nathan Metz. I didn't really watch a bunch of cartoons as a kid, and I grew up and I really like Archer and Rick and Morty and all that stuff now. And so I'm trying to get back into it, try to reclaim my youth a little bit. You know how it goes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And you're helping me out. You're Cody here.
Yep, Cody Kropodlowski, the Polish Hammer, as one person called me one time. That was pretty great. I, on the other hand, lacked a lot of love from my parents, so the only way to get the love that I needed and desired was to watch cartoons until I was a 26-year-old adult boy. Still going strong.
So you're still watching cartoons?
Still, yeah, like an unbelievable amount of cartoons.
All right. So what we're gonna do here is to introduce myself to cartoons. I had Cody recommend one to me, and we'll be do it like every 2 weeks. I'm gonna watch a brand new cartoon, and I'm just gonna binge watch it like crazy. And then I'm gonna give you my reactions. I'm gonna tell you what I think of it, whether it's nice or not. It's just how it's gonna be, you know. So what we did for this week is we did the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
Great show.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
It's Flapjack is the most absurd little character ever. Like, he lives in a whale. Okay,
Yeah.
The show is about a little boy named Flapjack. Do we ever get a last name for Flapjack?
No, it was just Flapjack.
Okay, just Flapjack, and then Captain Knuckles,
Yep,
which is
Captain.
spelled like Knuckles,
Like
right?
Knuckles, yeah.
Right, because he has wooden hands, right?
Yes, yeah, he
Yeah.
has wooden arms, wooden legs. He kind of like the way that the developers throughout the whole thing tried to do is they did start out wanting to make him more human, obviously, but then it just kind of turned into him really just being this like blue sausage person thing. And like there's an episode where he loses his legs, or they actually find legs. Like just floating in the sea, like just standing upright.
I remember
yeah,
this.
on this little raft, and then Knuckles pops off his wooden legs and hops on these giant, muscular, sexy legs and just like kills it for the day. What he thought of killing it was him going around Stormalong Harbor and just creating havoc. Like,
oh my god!
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, no, I remember this. And then there was also Bubby, who's a big blue whale, and they live inside Bubby, which sounds gross, and it is kind of gross. But they live inside her mouth. Of all, is that of all the places that you want to live in a whale? Like that's where you want to be.
Right in her mouth. And the one thing I like too is they like whenever they were in her mouth, she talked like she had a mouth full of things, like if they're in there and they're like having a conversation with her, and Flapjack's like, I love you, but I love you too, Flapjack, because like she has peanut butter stuck in the roof of her mouth. I loved it. What's that called? Like congruity. Where
Continuity.
Continuity.
Really good.
Yeah, you can tell I went to Menasha High School.
Oh, nice. Nice. Shout out to Menasha High School.
Yeah, shout out Menasha. Thanks for the education.
Yeah, so the continuity was really good on that show.
Yeah, like I love like they'll if Captain Knuckles gets mad because he's arguing with Bubby, and then he storms out of her mouth, he'll like slam her tooth closed like a door. It'll open as a door and he'll slam it, and she'll like yell like, "Don't you dare slam my teeth!" Like it's like you slam a door and your mom's like, "What bills do you pay in this house to earn slamming my goddamn door?"
Right, yeah, it was just like that. It was really funny. One of my favorite parts of the series, one of the things that I remember watching and I thought was just hilarious was she goes, "Knuckles, you don't make any sense," or something like that, and he goes, "Your door or your tooth open up like a door doesn't make any sense, but here we are."
I forgot they did that. Yeah,
it was really funny.
They break the fourth wall so goddamn so well.
So, before we get too much into our reactions for the show, I just want to go into some of the facts of the show. For those of you who don't know, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack was a show that aired on Cartoon Network. It first premiered on June 5th of 2008, and the last episode was August 30th, 2010. It had 3 seasons, but it was really like 2.5. They cut the 3rd season kind of short.
Yeah, they did. There was a while that we thought they just discontinued it, because I didn't actually watch the 3rd season until probably 2013 or 14 when it went on Hulu or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but until then, I looked up stuff saying that Cartoon Network didn't want to keep going with it. I couldn't really even find DVDs out there. I guess I didn't search, because you can find anything, if you search hard enough. But yeah, like for years, like me and my friends were like absolutely bummed, and like that's how into this cartoon we were. We were like, how could they not do this? How could they just not like put a bow on it and like here you go, nerds, like.
Yeah. No, it's one of those. I was looking up other cartoons that kind of aired around the same time, and there was one that came up. It was Chowder. I have seen a couple episodes of Chowder,
Yeah.
just like here and there. And that show ended pretty early too, didn't it?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
didn't get a lot of seasons out of that show, and I think it was just this era in Cartoon Network. I didn't get much on it when I researched it. Like, did you kind
Yeah.
of notice that when you were growing up?
Yeah, I did too. I wasn't as into it. I did love Chowder, because it was another like cute cartoon,
Mhm.
that like I could like smoke weed to,
Yeah.
and Chowder was all about food, so like that kind of. I'm not gonna lie, that actually did kind of get me more into food, because I cooked for so long, and I was like, well,
Oh, okay.
what's gazpacho, like what's mung dal, and then those were character names in it.
Oh, okay.
So you'll learn.
Yeah. I'll watch that one
yeah,
time.
that'll be another one that that's the next episode. We'll get into Chowder.
Yeah. Yeah, so going more into the show, it received two Primetime Emmy Award nominations. It never won an Emmy. But I mean, it was nominated, so it was a very good cartoon.
Yeah.
And the creator is Van Roman.
Van Orman.
Van
Yeah,
Orman.
yeah, Thurp Van Orman.
Thurp Van Orman. Okay, so he first pitched the show to Cartoon Network in 2001.
Hmm.
He got some notes on it, and I think again in 2003. I think it was that was the year he went back in, and they said, okay, we'll make your show, but it took them until 2008 to actually release it, so
Yeah.
a long process into getting it. And uh, Van Orman is kind of an interesting character because he created the show, but he also voiced Flapjack
He did.
in the show.
He did.
And the reason he did that was because Paul Rubens was originally supposed to voice Flapjack, but he never showed up for the initial recording. So Van Orman was just like, "Yeah, I'll do it myself. Let's
Yep.
get it." And I mean, Flapjack's voice is iconic.
Yeah.
It is.
It really is. And real quick, just for people that don't know, what was the Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah,
was
Paul
actually-
Rubens.
Paul Rubens.
Yeah.
I always forget his real name, but yeah, for people who don't know, Pee Wee Herman was supposed to be the voice, and I think it would have done well, but I mean, Flapjack would have had the ha kind of voice to it, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it would not have fit as well as Thurup's like childlike wonder.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it was the right move. Like just a happy accident, I guess.
I think so. I mean, Paul Rubens is a great actor, and he appears in a lot of things, and he's iconic. But I
Yeah.
think for this show, it was good that Van Orman just kind of stepped up and made it what he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Alongside Van Orman and the show, were a lot of other people too that were pretty prominent. You had Brian Doyle Murray. He
Yeah.
voiced Knuckles, and then Roz Ryan. He voiced Bubby.
Yeah.
And I mean, Doyle Murray, he's one of those iconic actors too. If you want a grumpy old character voice, he's the kind of guy you want. You know, he's got that iconic just old person voice. It's kind of gravelly, and it's got just enough pitch to it to make it interesting. Even I mean, in voice recordings, which not a lot of actors who are screen actors transition over and do.
Right. And like the thing I love about him is he just has that voice. It's like there's certain people where it's just like for me, I'm very interested in getting into voice acting. So when I moved to Chicago, that's gonna be one of the things that Second City offers is voice acting, so they can help you find your voice. But there's certain people like him or H. John Benjamin, and he does the voice of Bob from Bob's Burgers. But he's done so many things. He was the coach in home movies back in when we were kids. And you don't know it either. You don't know. I would be throwing so much stuff at you. You're like, oh, cool. Like, and you're being like a really polite dude. I saw your face, like, oh yeah, right. And you have no idea, no idea at all. But H. John Benjamin, he has that voice, that low, like really really good like monotone voice.
Yeah, he does that kind of voice, just kind of like that.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, there are people that it's just like they have what it would take, just naturally, just to be I feel like they're ugly. They're too ugly to be put on screen, so they just use their voice to. So it's like having the voice for the face for radio. You know, it's
Oh
like
my god.
you have that voice that's like, hey guys, how's it going? You going down the 105? You know, but like that's an ugly dude. It's an ugly person.
You just know the guy behind that.
You can really tell.
Oh my god. I feel bad for H. John Benjamin. I love him. I don't want him to not listen to our podcast from now on. If for some reason H. John Benjamin decides to listen to us, the reason I'm into animation now is because of the show Archer. Like I totally got into it, and I know that. I bought your book. Please don't hate me.
hate me, all right? I thrive on your negativity. That's what builds me up. No, like they're gonna, like one person's gonna like randomly hear this. The one random person in like Appleton or Madison is gonna hear us tweet him, and he's actually gonna listen to this. Big, the fuck.
Yeah. So. Crazy anecdote here. I have actually been retweeted by the Archer's official Twitter. So you are talking to a famous person right now. I know.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was also in the last 3 seconds of a Meyer commercial that only aired in Green Bay. But that's beside the point. We're going to get into Roz Ryan now. Now, Roz Ryan, I found a little bit less on her, but the big role that I noticed her from was she was one of the gospel singers in the animated movie Hercules.
Oh, yeah.
The Disney one.
Yeah, she was.
And that's an animated thing I have seen. Like movies, I'm more up to date with.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's saying like the gospel truth and all that other stuff. Those iconic songs that moved along the plot of that movie. She's really good.
Yeah. She is much lesser known. Like I'm looking at what she has done so far, and she has been she's been in the Hercules. She's been in a lot of stuff where it's actually her acting. She was in Kim Possible, which that was another great show that I loved when I was a kid. But yeah, besides that, she's been in a lot of actual movies. She was somebody in the Looney Tunes as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure. I think one of my favorite characters from Flapjack is his name is Steve Little.
Okay.
And the first time I ever saw him was he was on this show. Eastbound and Down with Danny McBride. It's hilarious show where Danny McBride, you know how cocky he is.
Yeah. He's pretty
over the
himself,
top.
yeah.
Yes. Well, he is like he was a famous baseball player, made it to the majors, just a pompous dick about it, and then he eventually loses his starting spot, has to go back and work at the high school he graduated from as a gym teacher.
Okay.
So you can understand how embarrassing as hell that is, but he still puts on this persona of I'm the shit, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Little plays a teacher that thinks he's like the greatest guy in the world. So then like Danny McBride gets him to be like his right hand bitch. He's like,
okay.
like Steve Little, he like worships anything Kenny Powers does, and he uses it to his full advantage. But he is the voice of Dr. Barber.
Dr. Barber.
And I know you love Dr.
I love
Barber.
Dr.
He's
Barber.
so great and creepy. He's insane.
I knew the line from on a Discord chat with some of my buddies playing online video games.
Yeah.
Someone just played the audio from it when someone needed a healer once, and it was just the audio of, "Do you need a haircut or a surgery?"
That's good.
When I heard that in the show,
Yeah. Oh my god.
We found the map to Candied Island. Me and my fellow barbers here. Barber surgeons.
and that was actually a thing back, like, way back in the day. It's like surgeons also did haircuts.
Yep. And tooth removals and everything else. Yeah.
It was just a whole thing. It was like the Walmart of a profession. It's like, we have everything here. Do you want a haircut or do you need surgery?
You need surgery. Yeah.
Surgery.
Actually, the barbershop poles, the spinning poles with the red and white, that was the blood and bandages and stuff like that to signify that's where you can go and get help. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But yeah, no, I loved Steve Little in it, and he's also done a lot of voiceover stuff too, and
so you're saying Dr. Barber's and other things?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes.
I mean the voice of
yes,
course,
the voice. He was in Adventure Time, and I didn't watch this one, Camp Lazlo, and right now I'm just looking up his the stuff he's done for voice acting. and yeah, another Camp Lazlo. Yeah, so I mean, just those two, and he see now I have to look up
Yeah,
who he
while
was.
while you're doing that, I want to talk about Thurip von Orman a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
His first name is Mark, I believe. It was his like given name, I guess, is Mark von Orman, but he goes by Thurip. And he voices Flapjack in the show, but this guy does not look like what you would think who you think would voice
No,
Flapjack. Like this guy
no.
looks like a pirate right out of like the 1600s. He's got the pictures of him online. He's got a beard. He's got tattoos. He's an older guy too, but I mean he's still working in the business. He did a lot for animation. He was the creative Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, but also he was a storyboard artist for Camp Lazlo, the Powderpuff Girls, and the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Hmm.
And I've seen like one episode of each of those. To me, yeah. But yeah, that's a pretty big thing. And he was also the supervising producer for a show that just ended called Adventure Time. And yeah, so
So sad.
and I
Yeah.
think you said Adventure Time. We were talking before we started recording, and you said that Adventure Time really was born out of Flapjack in a way. Like a
Yeah,
lot of the people that come from it.
it was. Well, I mean, a lot of cartoons actually were. Like, there's another one that we'll get to eventually called The Regular Show, and that one was started by J.G. Quintel, who was I believe he was like a big writer on it, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, and that eventually went on. Um, Thurup actually started as an intern for with the Powerpuff Girls, and they needed help with a couple scenes or something like that. So he threw in, his ideas, and they loved it. So they let him help on uh, a lot of the, at least maybe like 6 episodes or something. He had like a big hand in it.
Oh, that's cool.
No, it's funny that you bring up the way that Thurup looks because he he was an adventurer for a while.
I read about this.
Really,
This
yeah.
is my favorite part about
It's
reading about this series. It
yeah.
was I mean to start a podcast with this guy's story is
I
amazing.
I know. It was honestly the correct pick. Because I want to go Ariel Monsters and I want to get into Flapjack too early because I love it that much. But screw it, like go big or go home on your first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so after finishing school, Thurp saved up enough money to buy a ticket to Panama City and went to Shell Island, which it was an underdeveloped island between Panama City and the Gulf of Mexico. And when he got there, it was just riddled with rattlesnakes. Like,
Really?
yeah, yeah. It was
I didn't hear that.
yeah, like he got there and it's like, oh shit, there's these things are gonna murder me now.
That's hilarious.
And really, it encapsulates the perfect thing that that was his first project being Flapjack, because no matter what, it's called Shell Island, and I'm sure you realize throughout that everything has an island.
Yep. Everything was
So
an island.
yeah, so like Peppermint Larry has he hates pickles. It's like the one thing he has some pickle juice at some point, and he's like pickles, and like
Yeah.
no, and like has this like insane freak out. And then yeah, throughout the whole thing, you do realize that there's like he asks where it came from. It's like, oh, it came from Pickle Island. Or like Horseshoe Island, or Candied Island,
Candied
and
Island,
and
yeah,
that's
that's the whole point of the
go-to.
show.
That's the holy grail of places to find is exactly that Candied Island. Um, and then so he went to that island. He starved.
Yeah, he straight up
He's
did
like,
do
oh
it.
man, I'm gonna die here. So he had to go back. And then later on, his next endeavor, he lived in the jungles of Mexico, and sure enough, started starving. And then had to like go to resorts and eat out of their dumpsters. and that's the adventure he wanted to be. And like after those things, those treks, he started calling them adventures. He was like, I don't know, man, I just went on a crazy adventure to Panama City and I almost died. I went on a crazy adventure to Mexico City and almost died. So he
Yeah.
started calling all these things adventures, and like that's why no matter what it is in the show, Knuckles is trying to like swindle Flapjack and help me out, and
Yeah.
Flapjack's like adventure, you know, and just like going to do whatever. So I think we started doing that in high school when we started watching this. It's like whatever it was. It's like we were, high in my room watching this show, and it's like, oh man, we gotta run to the gas station to get some, like some blunt wraps or like some candy and stuff. It's like adventure. Let's go. Let's do this. It just brought everybody to the next level of excitement. I loved it. It was so fun.
That's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I think it's so funny that you watched this in high school
Yeah.
for the first time with like your buddies.
Yes, yes.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny.
Like, and no matter what, like, I mean, like I said, I grew up watching cartoons. Like if when I wasn't living at home, and if my stepmom came in and turned on the TV, if it was like NFL Network, she knew it was probably my dad. If it was like a hunting channel, it was probably my brother. And if cartoons were on, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, all of it, it was like, oh, Cody, it's nice that you stopped in, and we weren't here. Sorry we missed you. It's like, how do you know? It's like, cartoons are on the TV. It's like, shit.
That's hilarious.
But yeah. I mean, I loved Powerpuff Girls, and that was something he worked on early. Like Ed and Eddie, Doug, Rocko's Modern Life, Ah Real Monsters, Kablam. Oh my God, there's so many of them. Hey Arthur, like Hey Arnold. Sorry, Hey Arnold. Oh, Arthur as well. That was another one. Like a really old cartoon. Very, very vanilla.
Yeah.
But it was still there.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And I think there's just some things that I want to mention about his Von Orman's adventures. One is that when he got out to that island, he paddled out there on a surfboard. Like he didn't like have a boat or anything. He's just like, I know this island's here. I'm gonna make it.
He was a maniac.
Yeah.
He was an absolute that's what a crazy person does, man. It's like if one octopus wanted to come up and just like grab your leg, it's like he could do it. No, what are you gonna do? Swat at him? Like you're done. You're dead in the water.
I don't think octopus hunt people. I don't think that's a
but
thing.
if they all right, we'll say squid, and they don't purposefully hunt people. But what if that guy's like, what the hell is this thing, and just wants to bring you down there? Like I'm not saying that that they're like malicious creatures, but like if they're curious about you, they're gonna get you. Like it's over, it's done.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a maniac.
That is, I mean, it's crazy. And you know what? I think his story is like one of just like he just persevered through it. He starved on an island, then he starved in Mexico, and then he dumpster dived. And I mean, he made probably a bunch of money off of Flapjack one day, and it's just like I have no idea what the in between steps were, but clearly he worked for it and he got in there, and I mean, he made his dream come true, and he got his adventures on the television screen for us to watch. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I really look up to that. As far as it goes.
I do too, honestly, and like fully like hats off to Thurp Van Orman for doing it. He made it. Like he went through some real shit. And he kept grinding and was probably broke ass and poor his whole life until boom, not whole life, but his whole adult career trying to make it. And then boom, he finally got greenlit for this show, not knowing how it's gonna go. And he gave some kids in high school something to really just like laugh at and just like uncontrollably watch. It became a thing in my house where if I had the party house in high school. So my room eventually, because I know how people get like with like like bringing out like a bong at a party, it's like, well, I'm not gonna pack this bowl, hit it once, and have 15 other people just smoke my pot. So eventually, I was nice. I was like, dude, just go in my room,
Yeah.
So like people would go upstairs, and that became like the smoking area. And then all the time I would have like just random cartoons on. It was either Flapjack or Adventure Time eventually when that came out, or Super Jail, which is another great one that will blow your fucking mind. It's one of the most brutal cartoons ever. It's awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, so like all the time, like I would be in walking through the halls, and I had people like, hey man, you wanna pack your bowl up, watch some Flapjack, and like these people that have like were never really cartoon people eventually started just associating my house and my parties with like, hey, remember that time like that cartoon I watched in your room? And I would list off like 4 of them. It's like they were always I had them on my DVR. They were always on repeat. So it honestly became a staple in my parties of like people were excited to go up to my room and like see what cartoons I had on.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it was nuts.
That's wild. My parents are gonna throw a fit when they hear that I'm hanging out with you now.
It's a bad influence.
Yeah. Why is he with these people? Who does he meet doing comedy?
Adult children, that's who he meets. Adult boys, that's
Adult
what I
boys.
am.
Well, that's what I'm gonna turn into, watching cartoons all the time.
You are, man. You are.
But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this cartoon. I liked the art style. They worked with this company that it's called Screen Novelties, that did all the transitions, and sometimes when they like did these close-ups in the Misadventures of Flapjack, like they'd show these really gross looking things, or they'd
Yes.
show these like really outrageous looking things, and
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite parts of the show. Was they first did it, I wasn't expecting it,
Yeah.
and then they just kept bringing it back throughout the series.
Yeah.
And they actually did the opening stop motion intro,
Yep.
and they did all that other stuff, which I thought, it's cool to incorporate that, because I really enjoy the art styles of cartoons, and I think it's just really cool, this one. And the backgrounds were really interestingly drawn. It looked, to me, it's almost if they used not crayons, colored pencils to draw in all the backgrounds.
Yeah.
And all the characters kind of fit that color scheme.
Yeah. And I think what I read up on was that Thurup was also really into claymation and stuff like that. So, like, a couple of his earlier projects, he tried doing claymation, but I think it might have just, because it's overwhelming. That's a lot of work to go, do claymation. So what he did was he did really, he incorporated all of it. He incorporated the 2D, and then like you saw in the intro, and then also randomly throughout it would have claymation parts, like Candy Wife, always in claymation. Always in claymation. And then they also did like really weird, like realistic textured close-ups of people's faces.
And they're always super ugly too, which
They're
is
all
hilarious.
yes. Well, and like one thing that he liked doing is he would notice what people like. I it kind of makes him sound like a dick, but he would notice their flaws, like if they're like too gummy.
Yeah.
Because you've seen people with smile, and it's like, wow, you got a lot of gums, like that's so much gums. So like, that was one thing when like he would do close-ups. I believe Peppermint Larry was one of them, and where it was just like half gums, so it was like that just brought up that whole like, oh wow, like look, that's just a weird figure of a person,
Yeah.
Did you see the episode where like this dog does a backflip?
Yes.
Yes, and like
I loved it.
my favorite. He's like, you don't have me run your finger like Bubby and the boy. You have to do something more than that. And this dog does his backflip, and he just stops. Whoa! And it brings in that disgusting textured. You can see every pore on his face.
On his face.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, it was so good. And like one of my friends, Chris. Didn't overly get into the show, but it was one of those times where he was, in my room smoking at a party, and I think like maybe like 2 years ago, he even like just randomly sent me this clip. He's like, "Hey, remember?" And I just like lost it. I was like, "Yes!
So
oh my
funny.
god, I'm so glad you remember that."
I liked, so there's other things like along with that I really enjoyed. Whenever they went into something that was really gross. I'm gonna get away from the mic to do this for a second, but they always had this guy go, "Oh!" Every time I heard it. I mean, like clearly some guy was far away from the mic, and like they just recorded this one like guy reacting to something super gross, and it had this perfect comedic beat on the show, and I liked it a lot.
It really
so
did.
Funny.
Well, it was like like SpongeBob. Whenever like there's a big crash, and that one guy's like, "Oh my leg," it was like it worked so fucking well, and it got everything like that perfect little like knock on your joke, and then they just like kept reusing it, and I loved it every single time. One thing I really loved was whenever you would see something that was like a beautiful whatever, you would have like it would sing what it is. So like there was one time where like Knuckles got, he had some candy and Flapjack wanted some, and then it turned out that there were 2 pieces of candy or whatever the set was, and then it like showed it had a close up of this like glowing beautiful candy, and it was like 2 pieces of candy, like, and it was like God gave them this candy. I loved how they would just like sing out, like they would basically just sing out their punchline.
No, they would. That reminds me of the singing punchlines. One of the ones I remember is when Knuckles has his boots, and they were the boots of Santiago. And then
Oh
every
yeah.
time they said the boots of Santiago, it immediately went to a close up of the boots, and it went the boots of Santiago. And then at the very end of that was a oh. I loved it. It was over the top. The whole show was built around these punny punchlines,
Yep.
these over the top premises that they'd run through, and then the conclusion of a lot of the plots just ended up with this absurd ending. And
Yeah.
it's not a show you have to think about to watch, and
Yep.
it's a show that you can just enjoy, and I like that about it. And I liked, it's clearly geared towards kids, but as an adult, I watched it, and the jokes in there really carried over.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, like, of the cartoons, like, obviously there's going to be some in the future that I don't like, but I'm glad we started the podcast with something I did enjoy.
I knew you would. It's just like so like a lot of things. It's like it's stupid humor.
Yeah.
Of course it is. It's a cartoon. Like SpongeBob's a sponge that lives in a pineapple next to a tiki man and a rock.
Yeah.
Like it's stupid, but like I don't know the way they had everything together. It worked so well. They just this was my absolute favorite cartoon thing to watch. Like this seriously, I think revolutionized what the animation has eventually become.
Yeah, you've clearly made. I mean, just reading about it, it clearly made some headway for a lot of people and
Yeah.
a lot of things. What did you? I did watch the final episode of Flapjack, and I know you told me to watch it and that you had some opinions on it.
That's me sighing.
Yeah, the audio on that is gonna be beautiful.
It's
I'm
good.
sure just being that close to the mic and breathing, it's
Yep.
just gonna sound great.
Yep.
But yeah. Why did you sigh?
I feel like they got told that it was canceled after that season, and then they just wrote it in,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't. They didn't put a happy bow on it, which I guess is fine. But like the way it ended was, they kept eating this candy, and like it was gonna turn people into like fish, and then eventually they are fish, and then like Captain Knuckles and Flapjack ride off into the sunset with Bubby, like, let's go. And I was like, wow, cool. Like, neat.
Yeah, well,
well, and like, it might have been worse for me because, like I said, I thought they discontinued it for like 3 years. So for 3 years, I was probably like amping this show up in my head, thinking like, why not just have them find Candied Island before you end it,
Yeah.
And then like I finally realized, oh my god, no way, there's a full third season, and then it like lets out that turd at the end. I don't know. I'm not in the business, so maybe it was the right move, but
Yeah.
I was so mad as like a 24-year-old. Like I'm
So like you're older than I am now watching it.
Yeah, yes. And I was like in my apartment in the basement, like yelling, "Are you kidding me? I waited this many years to watch this, and I'm just gonna watch them float like swim away like fish." It was just, oh my god. So yeah, that was my take. What was your take?
Oh yeah. So the ending of the series, I actually really enjoyed it, just because I knew that just because there were 3 seasons out there and the last season was kind of short, I knew that they had for some reason to bring it to a close. Like all these years later, I don't know if like the budget ran out or they just didn't want to produce it anymore. Whatever happened. So when I watched this very last episode where they just ran through a normal plot. They had the 1,000 pieces of candy, which is the candy they kept drinking that turned them into fish, but it didn't really turn them into fish. It turned them into real people.
Yeah.
And they sat on top of Bubby, and the whole series then turned into like these actual actors up on there, but the actors aren't moving like normal actors. They kind of claymation them a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they rode off into the sunset looking for a new place to go do another adventure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really cool. But then I looked into it a little bit. Van Orman is the guy that plays Knuckles at the end, and his real son is the guy who plays Flapjack.
Yep,
like that's really kind of neat. And I liked how they did Bubby as just this head that was floating in the water. That was really funny. And then just to send him off into the sunset seems kind of fitting. Like if they found Candied Island, to me it would be like, all right, that's where I mean, logically, like they just live out their days on Candied Island, and they wouldn't have these like misadventures anymore because it'd just be Knuckles and Flapjack.
God, you're right.
I'm just sitting on an island then. But having them go off to find some new place to have to go live, like
Yeah.
they just do these little dumb adventures from then on.
Yeah. And you are right, because there's the adventure continues. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't wrap it up, because really, if they did find Candy Island, Knuckles would have died.
Yeah.
Because and again, for people that don't know, candy to these people is everything. So Captain Knuckles, he has a maple syrup bottle in his jacket at all times, and whenever like he's having a hard time, he just takes it out, chugs it, gets that little like he just drank some whiskey or rum, and then he like gets all loopy and drunk off it. So candy is their normal nourishment, but it's all it's their alcohol. It's the candy barrel. It sells mugs of just loose candy. It's so yeah, you're right. Knuckles would have died. And it does leave it for there's more adventures happening, but I waited 3 years.
Yeah.
I waited 3 years for this, and I was like, I was so sad. I was too close to it. I was too close to the project.
I don't think so. I mean, it's a good project to be close to, and there's nothing wrong with that, I'm sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I mean, even after the series ended, like there's some big things that came out of it. Pendleton Ward worked on the series, and he went on to create Adventure Time afterwards. You said J.G. Quintel?
Yeah, J.G. Quintel.
He made the regular show. And
great show.
Alex Hirsch created Gravity Falls, and they all worked on The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack together.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, this was a big jumping off point for a lot of these guys.
It was, yeah. Like it really laid ground for like a new age of cartoons. I mean, at least I think it did. I believe people online also do. But it got compared to Ren and Stimpy a lot because like the gross faces or whatever. But the way that Flapjack did it differently was that it wasn't just being gross to be gross. Ren and Stimpy was a just disgusting cartoon that kids watch, and it had a lot of like homosexual tendencies between Ren and Stimpy. It's weird that we are allowed to watch this stuff. Like there were times where like
I was not allowed to
you
watch
were,
this
yeah.
stuff.
So it makes sense why you weren't allowed to watch cartoons.
Okay.
We were, and yeah, there would be times where like Stimpy would be like, the big red guy would be like bending over, and then like Ren's back there, and he's kind of like just staring into his butt like menacingly, like he's gonna go tear it up or whatever.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so like they did gross stuff to be gross. The gross part that people viewed Flapjack as is that it was the close up textured faces, where like it showed like some boogers hanging out, like potholes and hair sticking out everywhere. It was gross looking, but it was still truly an innocent adventurer cartoon that just this creepy old man that they found adrift at sea latched on, and now he's just like a cancer to all of them.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely. You're right, and I enjoyed the series. It was overall really, really good. Is there any last things you have to say about the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack?
Not really. Well, okay, so just the names. I took note of this. Flapjack was never about pancakes. Thurup had a dream that his name was Captain Flapjack when he was younger. So that kind of was him as the little first mate. Knuckles, Thurup's brother, used to call himself Buster Knuckles, and he kind of loosely based Knuckles on his brother, that he's a grump with like a heart of gold, because when
That's
it comes
cool.
down to it, they're good. He's a good person and stuff like that. Which I just love that he's bringing in his own life into this. Well, he started doing adventures and all this stuff. But yeah, so I found that pretty cool. I didn't know that until I researched a bit more. Oh, and Flapjack is immune to the plague.
Really?
Yeah, there's an episode where everyone's like around Stormalong Harbor is getting sick. And they don't know why, and Flapjack like has this rat that he likes, and like if someone does this rat wrong, the rat will like flick his tail and like throw something at him.
I remember that
Yeah,
song.
and then they're all
sick.
getting sick, and Flapjack was immune to the plague.
And they had the big syringe. They're like, Dr. Barber was like, we need your blood to make the or the serum or whatever. And it was just huge. It was bigger than all the characters on the screen. It was so funny. Yeah, this show was awesome. I'm glad you recommended it. This is gonna be called Cartoon Void. The Cartoon Void. Because the cartoons were void for my life, and now we're gonna get sucked into the void of cartoons.
Yes, and I'm going to fill that void to the brim.
Oh my
make this sound as sexual as possible.
I thought, okay. Well, we're gonna end the show here so I can run.
Yeah.
No, if you want to keep up to date with the Cartoon Void, you can follow the Cartoon Void on Instagram. You can also go to the Cartoon Void on any place where you can find podcasts. If you want to recommend it to your friends, I highly recommend it.
Yes, please.
If you hear this on iTunes or you hear this on Spotify and you give us a thumbs up or 5 stars and you just post your name in the comments section and what you think of the show, we'll do a shout out to you on the next episode.
Yes.
In addition to that, if you want to donate to our Patreon or donate to the podcast, go to either Anchor / Cartoon Void or Patreon.com. And look up Cartoon Void on there. Any way you give is going to help with the show. Eventually, we're going to have some different subscription plans. It's going to help us out. But anyways, it's going to start taking off from here. You can follow me on Instagram at @reallyGreatNate. That's really _great_Nate. And then Cody, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram for it's called SwampBeard, Swamp_beard. Or I don't use it too much, but I'm trying to get into it now. Twitter. My nickname is Throb Thomas.
Oh, gross.
It's a disgusting name. Throb_Thomas. So yeah, follow me and watch me just do nothing on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm also really great, Nate, on Twitter as well. You can check us out. We're usually at the Dairyland Brew Pub. It's a live open mic that takes place in Appleton, Wisconsin. That's where we hone our craft doing stand up, and I'm sure you're gonna get updates on that. And we're gonna get some regular episodes on this. Do you have any in mind that we might do for the next Cartoon Void?
Yeah, there's a lot. I brought up to Nate that I wanted to eventually do Adventure Time, but I feel like that's because the series just ended and it was such a monumental cartoon in animation that one needs to wait. I think Chowder be a nice little next step because like those two were out at the same time, so it was Flapjack Chowder it was Har Har Thursdays became a thing on Cartoon Network.
Nice.
Yeah, and actually it was really funny. So it became that. So every Thursday, all of our friends knew, like throw down the $5 that you got for your lunch, throw it down, bag of weed.
Oh my God.
And then it's Har Har Thursdays. So that came out and actually was funny in one of the Flapjack episodes. Captain Knuckles randomly yells out, "Har Har Thursdays!" And it was just, I don't know, it was funny.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. Thanks for listening to the very first Cartoon Void. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.